When I was 30, I couldn't speak Mandarin Chinese. Now I'm 35 and I'm living my dream life and teaching others Chinese. Traditional methods failed me, self-education healed me. So back in 2019, when I was still working as a family doctor in Canada, I was also taking Mandarin classes on the side in the evenings because I had one really big goal. Well, a couple of big goals, but one, I really wanted to travel to Taiwan and order bubble tea using fully Mandarin Chinese. Little did I know this would be a very arduous process. I would fail a lot, make a lot of mistakes, and give up along the way. I mean, I was full of enthusiasm at the start, but I just had no idea how to learn a language effectively. I spent hours memorizing vocabulary and tracing out characters by hand, studying grammar rules, but my brain felt like a jumbled mess. Nothing was sticking, and I felt overwhelmed and demotivated. The problem was I was trying to learn Mandarin Chinese using outdated traditional methods that are boring and dry. This was when I realized that there's a better way to learn, one that is more fun, more personal, takes less time, and is actually more effective. But I'm warning you, this method is very, very fast, but not everyone is going to agree with it, and it's not going to work for everyone, so use it at your own discretion. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the 8 most important steps that helped me to learn fluent Mandarin Chinese, and the steps that most learners skip. But first, we need to understand why traditional methods are hurting your progress. Why traditional methods failed me. The problem is most traditional language learning methods still rely on outdated, one-size-fits-all approaches designed for a different era. Take the US education system for example. Compulsory schooling started in 1918, over a century ago, not to inspire students or to teach practical skills, but to produce disciplined, efficient workers for the Industrial Revolution. The focus was on mass instruction, not real-world learning or motivation. The result? A system that prioritizes scale over quality, just like the factories it was built to serve. I experienced this firsthand in Canada when I took 6 years of French classes in the Canadian education system. And to this day, I don't speak a lick of French. And I'm not alone in this. There are many learners who share the same stories, the same frustrations about the difficulties learning a language in the traditional schools. Traditional education teaches you cold facts and vocabulary when you need stories and connections. Traditional education is dry and boring when you need fun and compelling. Traditional education is made for the masses, the average learner. But the thing is, you're not the average learner. There is no average learner. You are unique. You have your unique learning styles. You have the topics and the interests that uniquely interest you. And we all learn at our own different paces. One learner might learn really well visually through videos, watching videos, TV shows, movies. But another learner might learn really well by listening to audio, listening to podcasts, the radio. One person might want to really learn because they want to travel. Another learner might want to learn because they want to use it with their in-laws. These are completely different reasons. They're related, but should we really expect all of them to use the same method to learn Mandarin Chinese and expect the same results? There's a new way to learn. The internet has completely revolutionized learning. It's democratized learning. Anyone who has a connection can access the wealth of free information online, like what you're watching right now. YouTube has become a marketplace to find your favorite topics, your favorite teachers, your favorite lessons on anything, and specifically Mandarin Chinese if that's the language that you want to learn. You can build the perfect curriculum with the resources that resonate with you, that perfectly fits your learning style and the topics that you're interested in. You want to learn Chinese for travel? There's a YouTube video for you about that. You want to learn how to order bubble tea? You want to learn how to order an Americano? There's a YouTube video for you about that. You want to learn about self-development or psychology? There are Chinese podcasts about that. But while the internet gives us great power, it also demands great responsibility. With unprecedented choice comes unprecedented distractions. Just like food scientists hacked modern food to make it more processed, salty, and sugary, online content is created with digital salt and sugar to drain your attention and distract your mind. So be very careful with content that is made online, especially short-form content like reels and short-form summaries, content that teaches you bite-sized vocabulary without real context or depth. If you think about it, this is just another form of memorizing vocabulary lists. It's just packaged in a more flashy and cute wrapper in the form of a reel to make it look nicer. It spikes your dopamine and it makes you feel like you're learning, like you're being productive, but you're losing the context, you're losing the depth. But at the end of the day, you're going to forget it and you're going to waste your time. So instead, here are 8 steps to to teach yourself Mandarin Chinese effectively, the new way. Number 1, get massive input. If there's one thing that you remember from this video, it's that you should get massive input. This is the single method that helped me improve my Mandarin Chinese the most. When I started listening every day to podcasts all day, immersing myself in the language. And this is backed by science. Stephen Krashen, a renowned linguist, distinguishes between language learning, conscious study of rules, and language acquisition, the subconscious absorption through meaningful exposure. His input hypothesis suggests that fluency develops when learners engage with comprehensible input, language that is slightly above their current level but still understandable in context. This mirrors how children learn their first language, through immersion, listening, and gradual internalization rather than explicit grammar lessons. This is the reason that many learners spend years learning a language in schools, studying textbooks, HSK exams, getting HSK 6 on their exam, and they struggle trying to hold a conversation naturally. They struggle translating in their head or freezing. They know all the rules, they know the grammar rules, they know the vocabulary, but they struggle putting everything together in real time because they haven't internalized the language. They haven't immersed themselves enough in the language. The reality is most learners will still get some inputs, but the problem is they're not getting enough input. They need massive input. The goal is to overwhelm your brain, similar to brainwashing yourself in this new language. Like that jingle that you can't get out of your head. That's exactly what you want to do with your target language. You want to listen to it so much that it becomes a jingle in your mind. If you're interested in a system to help you to do this, check out the copy-paste speak course below. I can't remember how many times I've had words or phrases in Chinese pop up in my mind unconsciously without me prompting it, just because I've listened to it so many times through podcasts, through videos. But you might be asking, this probably takes a lot of time. How do I do this as a busy learner? Number 2, learning should fit your life. Many learners lose motivation or give up not because they're not smart enough, but because they're trying to jam learning into their already busy lives. Learning should fit your life, not the other way around. When learning fits your life, learning becomes fun. It becomes low friction. It becomes something that you're going to do anyways. But how do we do this? First, you need to understand that not all time is created equal, which means that not all study time is created equal. For example, 7 a.m. me before I scroll social media is worth 100% of my focus, while 11 p.m. me after a long day of work is worth only 5% of my focus. The value of your time and your ability to focus on a particular task and be passionate and enthusiastic and motivated is going to fluctuate throughout the day. And this is different for everyone's particular schedule. But to study effectively, you have to understand your energy levels throughout the day. And if learning Chinese is very important to you, if it's a priority for you, don't just dump it for the worst time in the day for you, where your memory and your focus is the lowest. The second way we can learn, even though we're busy, is by leveraging our dead time. Dead time is essentially otherwise wasted time that everyone has throughout the day doing mundane tasks like commuting, walking, doing chores around the house, working out, etc. These activities are all important, but the important thing is that during the time that we do these activities, they're not mentally taxing. We don't have to focus our mind 100% on these activities, which means that we can leverage this time to multitask. Even though it's been shown that we can't really multitask, and I totally agree, because if you're trying to multitask between two tasks that are really mentally taxing, for example, you're trying to read a book and watch a video at the same time, two things that require attention, full attention, then yeah, you're not going to be able to do that. But for example, if you're walking, it doesn't require you to be mentally focused on taking steps one after the other. It's a very mechanical movement that you've already ingrained in yourself. You've learned how to walk. You don't have to think about it. It's second nature to you. Then you can multitask walking, commuting to work with something that you're learning, something that requires your energy, something like learning Mandarin Chinese. And the best part is we can still learn even if we're passively listening. For example, listening to a podcast in the background while we're commuting, while we're working out. We're still able to immerse ourselves in the language and pick up the sounds of the language, even if we're passively listening and not 100% engaged. We can still pick up words here and there. We can still consolidate the vocabulary and the grammar that we know by repetition. This was how I was able to learn and listen to hours and hours of Chinese audio, of podcasts, of Chinese radio, by just leveraging dead time throughout the day without actually sitting down and making extra time to study. I was just using the time that I already had and turning my dead time into productive time. This was how I was able to build massive momentum day after day and see significant improvements in my listening and my speaking. But you might be asking, what should we actually study? What should we listen to? Number 3, stop studying beginner material. Learning from beginner material is helpful at first, but the problem I see with many learners is that they cling to beginner material and never move on to more difficult material. Beginner material is like training wheels on your bike. When you first start learning, the goal of training wheels is to get you started so you can take them off, not to keep them on forever. And the goal of beginner material is to learn the basics as quick as possible so that you can stop using it as quick as possible. Beginner material is essentially curated material for language learners. It's dumbed down material, purposely dumbed down material. And this is not a bad thing, like I said. It's a very good thing. It's very helpful in the beginning. The problem comes when we overuse it, when we cling to it, when we stop progressing ourselves, when it's the only thing that we're studying. On top of that, beginner material is typically very dry. It's very boring because it's textbooks, it's vocabulary lists. The alternative is to learn from real native material, podcasts, videos, YouTube videos, vlogs, TV shows, material that was made for native speakers. This way you can learn how native speakers actually talk in real life, the slang they use, the colloquialisms, the different accents, the natural rhythm of the language during conversations, during interviews. Stuff that you can't really learn from a curated textbook or curated beginner material. Once I started consuming native material, my enjoyment increased significantly and I was able to connect more with the language, with the culture, which made learning so much more fun and so much more motivating. If you want to learn how to build a system to help you do this effortlessly, to learn how to find the best native material, then check out the Copy Paste Speak course below where I show you exactly how to do that. Now I know what you might be thinking, the transition from beginner material to native material is not going to be easy. Yes, you're completely right. But that's also the point. You also want to be constantly challenging yourself, pushing your boundaries. But if you're always in the shallow pool, clinging on to your life jacket, you're not going to learn how to swim. Okay, so how should we learn from native material? Number 4, copy native speakers. Have you ever asked a native Chinese speaker a question about Chinese, about the language, and they tell you one thing, but then when you hear them speak, they say something else or they do something differently? It might not be that obvious as a beginner, but I notice this all the time as an advanced learner. And the reason is simple. Native speakers, native Chinese speakers, just like native English speakers, just like you and me, we learn the language as young kids naturally through acquisition, language acquisition, not by learning linguistics, not by learning rules at school. So while native speakers can't fully explain sometimes why they're doing what they're doing, why they're saying what they're saying, they know precisely and subtly the exact words to use for every specific situation, depending on the situation. And this is key because when I noticed this, my Chinese learning took a big jump when I stopped listening to what textbooks and even native speakers told me to do. And I just simply observed them. I listened to them. I listened to the words they use, the phrases they use, the grammar points they used, and I simply copied them. Like I mentioned, I talk about podcasts all the time. I listen to podcasts constantly throughout the day. I watch videos, I watch vlogs, and I just observed how native speakers have conversations together. I didn't try to overanalyze it. I simply copied them and I used the same phrases, the same patterns in my own speech. If you copy textbook phrases, you'll speak textbook Chinese. If you copy native speakers, you'll speak like native speakers. Say what they say, not what they tell you. Copying each other, mimicry, parroting, this is exactly how we learned our first languages as kids. And it's the fastest way that we can learn as adults too. If you can observe, then you can copy. And if you can copy, then you can learn. Okay, so what do we do after we listen and we copy? Number 5, don't forget to speak. There are some language learners that tell you that you shouldn't speak in the beginning as a beginner because this may impair your pronunciation or it may jeopardize your tones or your opinion. They say that it may build bad habits. I see their point, but I disagree. I think there's so many benefits to speaking that the benefits outweigh the potential cons in this situation. Obviously, listening is indeed important, but listening alone is not going to make you fluent. Take the classic example of ABCs, American-born Chinese. So these are people that grow up in an immigrant household. They hear the language growing up, and a lot of them are really good at listening and understanding, but because they haven't practice speaking. A lot of times they struggle to speak and they don't have the vocabulary, the pronunciation is not very good because they haven't practiced it. It's very normal. So listening and speaking are related. Listening is going to help you speak better, but it's not sufficient. Alone, listening is not going to make you fluent. There are different skills that need to be trained differently. And for a long time, I avoided speaking because I was scared. Scared for many reasons. Not enough vocabulary. I should focus only on listening first. I should perfect my pronunciation before speaking. Others will judge me. I'll make a mistake and look silly. But at the core, the real reason was that I wasn't confident. And the reason I wasn't confident was because I wasn't practicing my speaking. And the reason I wasn't practicing was because speaking was hard. Speaking is hard. And the reason it's hard is because I didn't know how to speak. I didn't have a system. Speaking requires you to coordinate a lot of moving pieces. Pronunciation, tones, your pinyin, characters, vocabulary, and then putting that all together, creating sentences, getting your message across. If your goal is to learn Mandarin Chinese so that you can speak, that you can communicate, so that you can connect with other people and travel and make friends, like it was my goal, then you need to not only listen, but you also need to practice speaking. Listening is just one half of the puzzle. Speaking helps you apply the vocabulary and the rules that you learn while you're listening and completes the second half of that puzzle. To help me do this, every time I listen, I ask myself, will I use this soon or as soon as possible? Number two, how can I apply this by speaking? This helps me put myself into the now mode, which is essentially if I can't answer these questions, if I can't think of myself, imagine myself using this vocabulary or these words or this phrase in the near future, then it's not worth my time. And I'm not saying that learning vocabulary is bad. It's the quality of the vocabulary. There are so many characters, there's so much vocabulary that you can learn that it gets overwhelming. This is why people burn out. So to focus my attention, my concentration, and my memory, I have to be very strict about what I learn. I have to really ask myself, am I going to use this? Or is this just something that I'm going to learn and I'm going to forget and it's going to be a waste of time? Unfortunately, this is a step that many language learners skip because it's just too hard. And what I would recommend about that is that you don't have to start speaking right away in conversations. You can start practicing by yourself throughout your day. You can start speaking to yourself, narrating your life. You can start recording yourself, which is what I recommend doing. This is what I do every day to continue to improve my Mandarin Chinese. And that's why I created a free speaking template to help you get started so that you can build a daily speaking habit. And you can download that for free in the description below. Number 6, systems over goals. Long-term goals are helpful. They give you a vision to look forward to and to direct your learning. But in the short term, in the day-to-day, big goals are not that helpful. They don't tell you what you should do today. They can be overwhelming and daunting. Instead of focusing on big goals, in the day-to-day, what I recommend is having systems that you can follow every day that will inch yourself closer to your goal day by day. My daily system is simple. Number 1, listen for at least 30 minutes a day passively. Number 2, speak for at least 1 minute a day. Number 3, apply one word I'm learning every day. And you'll notice that I intentionally set the bar low. I set the bar low because I want to get myself moving. And oftentimes, I'm doing way more than the bar that I set. I'm learning more than one word. I'm usually listening to more than 30 minutes. I'm usually speaking for way more than 1 minute. But the idea is that once I get going, it's a lot easier to keep going. The hardest part is just taking that first step and starting. I know that every day, if I just follow these 3 things, I'm going to make progress and everything else falls into place. If you want a system that you can apply immediately into your life, that fits into your life to help you build a speaking habit to improve your speaking, then check out the Chinese speakers community. This is exactly why I created this community. You can check it out in the description below. Number 7, limit studying. It's easy to fall for the trap of thinking the more you study, the more you're going to learn. This is true theoretically if you're a robot with 100% efficiency. But humans are not robots. Parkinson's law tells us that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. This means that the more time you allocate or you give yourself to study, the more time it's going to take you to study, the more time you're going to procrastinate and leave it to the end before you make a mad dash, before you cram all your studying into the last 5% of time that you have. So instead of giving myself tons of time to study every day, I intentionally limit my time so that I can go faster. This sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out. I cap my active studying time at 30 minutes a day, not because I hate studying, not because I don't like studying, but because I enjoy studying and I don't want to burn myself out. I know that if I set boundaries for my studying, then I'm going to come back the next day more refreshed and more motivated to learn. And I know that if I give myself 8 hours a day to study unlimited time, it's going to take me 8 hours of study because I'm going to spend most of that time procrastinating and spend the last 5% of time actually doing the real work. This is a lesson that I learned late in my journey, but the results have been really surprising. Despite studying less, I feel like I'm learning more, and I feel less stressed throughout the day because I'm not worrying about what else I can do. Number 8, don't learn in a vacuum. I used to take pride in being a self-learner and learning completely by myself, but the problem was that I was making a lot of mistakes and learning very slowly. Self-learning is not about isolating yourself in a room and never talking to anyone. Self-learning is about self-directed learning, meaning you get to create your favorite learning environment and you pick your favorite teachers and learning material. My listening and my learning and my speaking improved significantly once I started interacting with other people. Once I started using the language to talk to other people, to language teachers, to language exchanges, and making new friends. Practicing with other people makes the learning real. It makes it personal. It also helped me to apply in real time, in real life, everything that I was learning in private. The pronunciation, the tones, the sentence structure, the grammar. How well was I able to actually apply it in a conversation? Practicing with other language learners in a safe community helped me to get over my nerves, my anxiety over speaking. The anxiety you feel about your speaking is often about yourself. It comes from a misunderstanding of yourself. You are not your speaking, your pronunciation, or your tones. They say nothing about your value or worth as a person. Detach yourself from your speaking and set it free. You can just start speaking in your target language. You don't need permission. You don't need to wait till you're ready. Practicing speaking with language exchanges with teachers helped me also to figure out my blind spots, things that I can't really see by myself, nagging mistakes that I was making over and over again. And this helped me to improve a lot faster in my pronunciation, my tones sounding more natural because I was able to get feedback from native speakers, from language exchanges, from my teachers. This was the missing piece that helped me to sound more natural, to speak more fluently. And this is exactly why I created the Chinese speakers community. It's a supportive community that gives you everything you need to speak more fluently. And inside I help each learner personally with their specific situations. So I only have time to take in a limited number of learners. So if you're interested, check out the description below where you can sign up. You can start today. All of these steps, they may sound simple, but at every step, there's also a decision. There are questions. For example, you may be asking, how do I maintain my motivation? What vocabulary specifically should I learn? What resources should I use? How should I actually practice my speaking? The reason I was able to move so fast was that I didn't bog myself down with these specific questions. There's no wrong choice. There's no wrong answer to these questions. The most important thing is that you start moving. Taking action always beats perfection. You can start today. With that, I hope this helps you guys. If you're interested in improving your speaking in Mandarin Chinese, check out the speaking template, which is free to download below. If you want the complete system to help you find the best material for learning Mandarin Chinese and to speak Mandarin Chinese like native speakers, then check out the copy-paste speak system. And if you want more help, check out the Chinese speakers community below where I help you personally improve your Chinese. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. See you guys next time. Bye.